Hello, this is Tim Oakley. Welcome to 10 Minute Lean In. Today we're going to take a few minutes to talk about being connected to God. At the Last Supper, when Jesus was with his disciples, he sensed that they were dealing with anxiety and uncertainty. So he encourages them in John chapter 14:1 and told them, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust in me also." Then he goes on in the same chapter in verse 6 and says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me." Jesus Christ wants them and us to understand that the way to have a life of fulfillment is to be connected to God. And that is accomplished through our relationship with Jesus Christ. When we are connected to Jesus Christ, that is when we feel peace. That is when we feel love. That is when we feel hope, joy, and power. And when we are not disconnected with God and we are more connected with things of the world, that is when we feel stress, uncertainty, anxiety. And that really explains why so many people in our world are dealing with all of these things right now. There is a battle going on right now between good and evil. And the evil wants to separate and divide us from having a relationship with God and does not want us to feel connected to Him. We see this separation occur all the way back in the Old Testament at the creation of the first humans in Adam and Eve, when they had a disconnection and a separation from God at the fall of man. When Jesus came into the world thousands of years later, he also experienced this very kind of separation. But he came into the world to deal with this kind of separation and to bring us back into oneness with him. Jesus has the solution because he is the way, the truth, and the life. And that is why we have to tune in to the truths of God found in His Word, and that comes from the Spirit of God through the Holy Spirit. And that is when we begin to discover oneness and fullness only found in Him. Now, this is truth. So Jesus Christ is the solution to us being one with God rather than feeling separated from God. And if we know this, and if we know this truth, then why do so many of us as believers seem to be struggling? I believe it is because our souls may be saved, but a lot of us need our souls to be healed. Many of us are dealing with past wounds and traumas that have never been fully healed. And we feel overloaded by the past and by the dysfunction and the wounds of the past. One of my favorite authors, John Gordon, explains it like this: we have the baptism when we are dunked in the Holy Spirit, but it's not meant to be a one-time event. It's kind of like taking a cucumber and submerging it into pickle juice just for a moment and then pulling it out. If we do that, not too much is going to change for the cucumber. But if we submerge the cucumber in pickle juice and we let it bathe in it, after some time, it will become transformed and it will be renewed and it will be pickled. In many ways, that represents healing. As an example, if you take dirty water and you keep flushing it out and flushing it out, the more we flush it out, the more that it becomes, we take out the toxicity out of the dirty water. And that's what happens when we allow the living water that Jesus Christ talks about that springs up within us, and it flushes out all of the dirt and all of the stuff that we're dealing with. The debris and all of the junk, we have to flush it out. And we have to do, like we talked about in the example of the cucumber, we have to bathe in the Holy Spirit. And we need to do it more often. And I don't believe that we're doing it enough. I believe that we may know about God, and we may know that we're going to heaven, but we act like we're living in hell. So we have to take the time to connect to Him. We have to spend time in His Word, dwelling on His truths, to connect and to surrender and allow the Holy Spirit to begin to dwell in us and to move through us. When we surrender our dysfunctions and our hurts and our wounds from our past to Him, that is the way to truth and the life. And He can heal us and fill us with joy and peace. There are lakes and there are rivers, and many of us are walking around as a lake. As a lake does not have the living waters of springs flowing through them, so they become toxic. And many of us are like lakes when we're not bathing in the Spirit, and that toxicity begins to build up within us. A lake can become very unhealthy, but rivers, on the other hand, are flowing. And that is why they are much healthier than lakes, as they have flowing fresh water moving through it. And that is why we have to allow the Holy Spirit, that is like living water, to flow through us on a daily basis. A lot of us just don't seem to be trusting in God anymore. That we kind of feel like He doesn't deliver on His promises, that He's the God of the Bible, but He's not the God of our lives now. He only did the miracles in the Bible, but He really doesn't do that kind of stuff anymore. But I'm here today to tell you that He's still doing miracles. And I believe that God can do a miracle in your life, and He can heal the wounds, and He can heal all the dysfunctions. Some of you may not know that I'm not a full-time minister. I work a full-time job as director of sales for a food distribution company. And I deal with anxiety. I deal with feeling overwhelmed. And there are times where I just kind of quickly come to God and bring these things to Him. But I have learned that it's when I take the time to really lean into Him and really bathe in His presence and in His goodness, that is where I can begin to feel His presence, and that river begins to flow through me and begins to refresh me. So I want to encourage you today to find more time to get into the presence of God so that you can truly be renewed. Thank you so much for watching. If you feel led, I ask that you give the video a like, give it a comment, share it with somebody, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Y'all be blessed.